I'm excited to be here with y'all this morning, and I want you to feel good about what you're going to hear today, because what you're going to hear has helped some companies save tens of thousands of dollars in lost profits and revenue. And to some of you, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost profits and revenue. And today's topic, as you heard, reducing turnover and growing your bottom line. Well, that is the message and purpose of my presentation today. And I believe in teaching people how to insulate their companies from risk and losses that cause their money to go up in flames. And I want to share some tips, tools, and insights with you that you can take back with you to the office and use here in the weeks and months to come. Now, I want to keep today interactive. I'd like to ask you some questions along the way. I would simply ask you to play along. Obviously, the more you put into something, the more you'll get out of it. But I want to go right into it, but ask you a question. Have you had an employee working for you that was actually pretty intelligent, but you wondered if they were really engaged? Were they taking advantage of us in our company? Has it happened to any of you? I'm going to show you a quick 30-second video, and if technology is going to work, pray for me it does, and see if you can relate. Just typing away. Hopefully you haven't had that happen. Have you? Anyone hired anyone like that? Oh my gosh, no, right? Well, let's get right into the heart and meat of our program and say that in a study that was done by Harvard Business Review, they said that 80% of bad hires is a result of bad hiring, bad operational hiring processes. And we're going to talk about the cost of hire here in just a moment. And on the sheets of paper that you have there in front of you, if you're making some notes, I want to ask you this question. How much do you think it costs your company to have a bad hire? If you had to take a guess, jot something down or put something in your head. And we're going to talk about more about those costs further in the program. But I will tell you that Career Builder put some studies out, and we've heard that that number is anywhere from 1 to 5 times that person's salary. That's a very, very big number. So we're going to talk about that in this process. In a Career Builder study, they came out and said that 39% of businesses feel that production crunch because of turnover. It's almost kind of a no-duh statement. But the Career Builder study went on further to say that 41% of companies have a loss of over $25,000. Those experiencing over $50,000 in costs, that represented almost 25% of those companies that were surveyed, which is a big number. Big, big number. So let me see a show of hands here. Who here has felt that employee turnover has been a concern to your company? Has it affected many of you here? Okay. It's a big issue. Where you're in the right place, if you're frustrated with employee turnover and you're looking for maybe some systems or trying to understand, are there predictable ways that you can try to mitigate that? And yes, there are. Today, what we're going to learn is the financial impact that employee turnover has on your company and how you can gain peace of mind by certain strategies that are being used to help mitigate that. But a little bit about me. I'm known as America's Risk Reduction Authority. As a professional, I've been in the insurance industry for over 35 years, in claims, in loss control, and as a broker. And all that has given me a great, excellent technical foundation for the consulting work that I do today. And about 6 years ago, I was teaching a program called Keys for Profitability in the New Economy. And in that, we were teaching cost containment strategies for CEOs of middle market companies. And because of the success that people were having with those strategies, I had a number of people come up to me over time and say, hey, Rick, you probably ought to write a book on this stuff. So I did. A couple years ago was published Actions Waiting to Happen. It's a book on best practices in workers' comp administration and protecting corporate profitability. And proud to say it actually became a bestseller in the first 2 weeks of distribution. Actually went to #1 a couple years ago. And I say that not to impress you, but to impress upon you that I have an absolute passion for how I see my work. a passion that comes from not only my work, but comes from the greatest role model in my life, and that was my dad. My dad was a family practice physician. His patients loved him, good bedside manner, and he taught me growing up, if you're going to do something later in life, make sure you're effective at getting good results for the people that you're trying to serve. And that's something that we're very proud of at our firm, is that we've been very successful in predictably helping people to reduce, again, claims, lawsuits, employee turnover, and those types of things. But enough about me. Let's talk about the impact of turnover. And as you look at some of those items on there, they should be, obviously, they're common sense items. Production clearly is thwarted when we've got employee turnover. It's a morale killer. Those who are left holding the bag, the employees picking up the slack of everyone else who's not there, it gets old after a while, and their morale suffers in this process. Attendance problems. It's kind of again, happens in the territory. Complaints. Y'all have worked very hard to build a very good corporate brand. Why have it hindered and hurt? Because you've got now missed deadlines. Your clients are just not happy with what's happening. Let's talk about the visions that you have for your company. Each of you have certain things that you want to do within your own companies right now in your head. As you think about your goals, put those in your head. I know a company in Central Florida bought 5 new vehicles, or was planning to buy 5 new vehicles. It's going to cost him about $250,000 is what he had budgeted as he expanded his territory. Had a manufacturing company. They wanted to go ahead and open up a 3rd shift. He was budgeting about $150,000 for that. Well, as you put your goals in your mind, I want you to think about this. All those goals and visions that you have, they cost, obviously take money. And the last thing you want to do is have those goals go up in flames, your money go up in flames, have those goals thwarted, or take you a couple extra years to try to attain because of loss of profits in this process. And I'm going to share this story with you. Some of you may have heard it from before, but it breeds repeating. A story about Dave and Sandy. Dave was a successful contractor down in South Florida, and he walks in Monday morning at 9 o'clock. He's walking down the corridor, and his assistant, Sandy, has got that look on her face. Ever had one of your staff give you that look of frustration, that look of despair? Well, Dave made eye contact with Sandy as he's getting to his office, and he could see something was up, and he was thinking to himself, oh no, I don't know if I want to have this conversation or not. But he goes up to Sandy's desk and says, good morning, what's up? Well, Sandy proceeds to say, Dave, I've got some bad news, and I've got some worse news. What would you like first? Well, Sandy proceeds to say, Dave, remember the guy that we hired mid last week, George? Well, he had a workers' comp claim last week. Yeah? Well, I just found out this morning, Monday morning, he's suing us. He's got an attorney. And as soon as Dave heard that, his stomach went into a knot, thinking to himself, great, here we go again. Someone taking advantage of us, taking advantage of the system. And this isn't the first time this has happened to Dave. So let me share with you a little bit about the chemistry about this case. Dave had just hired on 20 new people in 1 month to be able to build out a job he'd just been awarded. And in the first 2 weeks of hire, one of his employees goes out and has a serious workers' comp claim. But what he learned after the fact was that this employee has had a history of going out and having claims and getting an attorney. And this claim ran about $67,000. And based on Dave's profit margin, which was about 5% at the time, he's now got to sell over $1.3 million worth of sales just to break even. Just to break even. That's a big number, isn't it? So let me shift gears. Let's talk about the sales impact. I'll show you how we come up with those numbers. It's really a simple math problem. First thing you've got to know in each of your companies is what is our net profit margin? In Dave's case, it was 5%. So again, the math is simple. You divide that net profit margin into a loss, any given loss, and in just that one claim alone, boom, he's now got to sell over $1.3 million. Again, that's big money. So let me have you put this in your world. $67,000 in profits. How much lab work do we have to do? How much construction do we have to win? And what profit margins in order to make that happen? That's really what we're talking about. That's what's at stake here. So how are people fixing this issue? How are people trying to go through and mitigate this issue in the blind spots? Well, there's a number of ways. Some of you are going through and you're having pre-employment testing that's being done. And there's different type of testing models that you can do. There's cognitive testing, there's skills testing, knowledge testing, there's integrity testing. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. There's personality profiling. How many here are doing personality profiles on your folks? Anyone here? Have a few folks of my clients that are doing it. But let me share this with you. We all know Warren Buffett. Time Magazine named him one of the most influential people in the world. And when he's hiring people, Warren looks for 3 qualities: integrity, intelligence, last one there is energy. But what he went on to say is actually pretty amazing. He said, if you don't have the first one, the other 2 will kill you. Again, that's a pretty profound statement. And that's backed up by another career builder study, talked about the fact that 56% of resumes that each of you get contain fraudulent or embellished information. That's a lot. That's a lot. So let me ask you this. Who here have heard of integrity testing? Show of hands, anyone? It's been around for a while. It's been around for over 30 years. And it has a pretty scary way of ferreting out those people who suffer from a condition called cognitive dissonance. What in the world is that? That's when people's behaviors, their unproductive behaviors, are not in alignment with their subconscious mind, what's deep in their head. And it's amazing what people will self-admit to. So what are you testing for in integrity testing? Well, it's looking at people's propensity for drug use. It's looking theft. It's looking to see if they're trying to beat the test or not. Even has a hostility quotient in it, which is pretty interesting. How do people deal with conflict? It's at construction job sites. Are they fighting? How do they deal with conflict? And what people like about the integrity testing as a whole, again, this first came out, it's been around for 30 years, but Sherham put a magazine article about 6 years ago. And if anyone is interested in that white paper, I'd be glad to share it with you. But they said that most all of the Fortune 1000 companies are doing it. And it's caught on by wildfire because, again, it's pretty scary accurate in coming up with some good results, which I'll share with you here in just a moment. And again, it's gotten to be very popular. Why? Because it's actually very efficient, very effective. It's usually, most of these companies will have where it takes probably less than 10 minutes to do, limited number of questions, probably 50, 60 questions, usually at a 5th grade level so everyone can understand it. It's typically in multiple languages. So that's a good thing. But how do you use a tool like this in the process? Well, let's face it, you all get resumes from time to time. And let's say you get 15 resumes. Where you're going to look through those resumes and you're probably going to disqualify 5 of them right off the bat. They don't match. But what are you going to do with the other 10? Why would you waste your time interviewing people that may be the proverbial worms in your apple? No sense in wasting your valuable time. Time is money, right? So what people are doing with this effective tool as a pre-hire tool is they're getting the applications, looking at the ones that they think are good, the 10, and they're shooting the integrity test out to these folks. And statistically, the numbers that have come up for a number of years is 3 out of those 10 folks will self-disqualify themselves. It's amazing what people will self-admit to. Absolutely amazing. That's where this cognitive dissonance is. A bad behavior done so much, people just think it's actually the norm. So again, you weed those people out and start your interview process from there. And again, going back to why this has been so well received is because, again, they've kept data on this for a number of years. And in the world that I live in, we've seen, with my own folks, the number of claims that they have reduced by, on average, they say 48%. I've actually had clients have better success than that. We've seen actually the cost of those claims reduced by 19%. And here we are talking about employee turnover. To reduce turnover within your companies by 30% could be actually huge. So again, something to keep in mind. Now again, my part of the program today was very short. I was going to tell you it was a 5-hour program, but I didn't want to have anyone fall out of their chair. If anyone has any interest in this type or other type of testing models and you would like to talk or set up a time later on to discuss this with me and maybe other areas that you can mitigate risk, just hand me your card later on and be glad to get together with you. But I want to keep my portion short to keep us moving along. So again, thanks everyone for being here.